Dead meme.
Hey guys, it's Dead Meme again. Good to see you all again. Today I'm going to talk about the rocket ships and the terrestrial vehicles, I guess you can call them. So basically, this is the earliest shuttle you can make. It's going to require you 2 aluminum to build. It has a slot for one particular set of equipment. So you can either throw an oxygenator in there, which I don't recommend, because you could pack it up and put it on one of these guys and carry a whole bunch. Now this is the more advanced rocket, significantly more room. It also has the oxygen space in it, but again, it's better to use the storage. It requires ceramic and aluminum alloy to make. Now you won't be able to make this guy on Silva because aluminum alloy, you won't be able to make it here. Like you'll make it on this planet, but you won't be able to get the technology to do so. This is the Chem Lab. You'll need this to make that aluminum alloy with an aluminum and a copper. So there you go. So this machine requires a material that comes from another planet, which is why we're currently talking about shuttlecraft. And of course, this is the larger shuttle, a titanium alloy and ceramic and exochips. I'll show you where these come from very soon. Every ship requires a thruster of some kind. You have your solid thruster. It can only be used so many times before it breaks. Basically, you can make a to and fro trip from a planet. And this Hydrazine Thruster, which is refillable with hydrazine. And this also comes from that chemistry station. So you won't have access to this in the beginning. You're going to need this to breathe on any planet you go to. It doesn't require power. Anything that this is attached to, it will provide oxygen to throughout that network. So if you drop it on your shuttle and tether off of your shuttle, you'll have oxygen. Tether off of a base with this included, you'll have oxygen through that tether network. If you don't unpack it and put it on your storage container here, it is much smaller. You can bring a lot of supplies with you. Now, on to terrestrial vehicles. So this is probably one of the very first vehicles you're going to build. This is the tractor, and it requires 2 aluminum to make. You can make this in the small printer, which is great, unlike these guys, which must be built in the large printer. These guys are kind of modular. You can make them larger. You can put storage on top of them. And you can carry back research. They do require power, so what I like to do is this. Now while you're in the vehicle, if you push B or C, you can toggle on or off that generator. And the controls are pretty simple. It's like, it's WASD, but with momentum. And of course, if you don't like the current setup you have, it is modular in nature. I can say, nope, I don't want that anymore, and I don't want that anymore. Those tractors that we're towing on the back, they're independent structures that are built in the same factory, the smaller printer with an aluminum and a compound. Now we have the Buggy, which is more modular. As you can see, I've done a power setup for this one. You'll need to print a seat for it. That's 2 compound, pretty easy to do, and it operates the same way, but its handling is significantly better. It's more fun to drive too, as strange as that may sound. So we'll take that off of there. So we have a vehicle now that's very similar to the tractor. We've got the Rover, and the Rover is very modular as well. It will require you to print a seat for it. And now I can run away. And this is the recipe for it. 2 plastic and a rubber. Very, very similar to the tractor. But it's got larger slots. So you could theoretically carry around a modular similar to the furnace, so the soil centrifuge, if you so decided. And let's bring our seat with us. This is the very large Rover. You can put a lot of other very large components, such as the paver and the drill. Those are more a more advanced build. It's something I'll cover later on when I make like my what I call the planet tamer, and it travels throughout the world cutting like straight lines. Like it makes roads, and it makes them underground too. And there's methods to make it so that it powers itself for the most part. So it requires exo chips, an aluminum alloy, and a rubber to make. So not terrible, but these chips, they can be strange and hard to find. So you're going to keep your eyes open for this guy, an exo cache. This is how you're going to get those chips. And when you're near them on the map, as you can see, if you hold down R, this is how you can access your compass. And you can see that it shows up on the map, and you can get a ping when you get close enough to it. There you go. So it's telling me I'm above it. And when there's no line protruding off of it, we're on the same level. So you can't carry this guy very easily. So what I would recommend is you could dig them up, or you can bring some bigger vehicles and you could drive around with it. So something to keep in mind, you need to access this vehicle, or sorry, not the vehicle, you need to access this cache via dynamite. So something to keep in mind while you're out in the world, you're driving around and you're carrying dynamite. Dynamite can also damage your vehicles. So don't let that happen to you. Blow these things up far away from your vehicle, because you'll be quite sad. And of course, by destroying these things, we get scrap. Scrap is a very important part of the game, but it's outside of the scope of this video. And other than that, there is a rail system I'm going to set up to talk about that. I'll return when that's ready. Okay, so I've done a more in-depth video on rails. We're just going to do a very general coverage of this rail system. In order to print these rails that you're seeing that I've laid out here, you're going to require an aluminum and a resin, and you're going to get a bundle that looks like this, and it's got a certain number of charges in it. Works just like the tether network. There's a taller version. It's the same thing, printed, crafted the exact same way, printed in the small printer, has a number of rails in it. We'll come back to the vehicles in a moment. And this is the junction. The junction is slightly different, requires 2 aluminum. You get something that looks like this. There's a number of charges in it. So the rail car requires the medium printer. This is basically like a storage engine. You can drive the machine without one. Like you can operate the system without it. I don't recommend it. The rail engine makes it run much quicker. So the recipe for the rail car, 2 resin and aluminum. You're going to print this in the medium printer, or the 3 input. The rail engine is an aluminum and a copper and 1 resin, and again you're going to print that in the 3-slot printer. This is very modular. You can print several of these and stack them up on each other. You can have a maximum of 6, so that's like 1 engine and 5 cars, but the more cars, the more power. It's an issue in the early game. It's highly modular. You can carry your research projects home, or you can decide to equip various things. This does require power, but since I'm in creative mode, at this time it does not. So there are plugins to get to your power sources. These can act as a tether network if they're networked into an oxygen system or a power system. So we're going to have a quick demonstration. The rail system is relatively smart. As you can see, I've made a junction here and it's pointed the wrong way. Points to a dead end. So I'm going to call this car. So this is a very simple automation. And as you can see, it got there, it swapped it on its own, and it made its way around. And of course, you could ride on it. Probably one of the most exciting parts of the most recent update was these trains. But I'll link my other video in the system, or sorry, in the description, so it'll show this whole system. at a way more advanced level. But other than that, that covers everything I was super interested in showing you. Quick recap. This is the first shuttle, requires 2 aluminum. Bring an oxygenator with you. You are going to need as well a solid fuel thruster, which is an aluminum and an ammonia. We talked about this in the previous video. Make sure you bring an oxygenator, just don't unpack it right away. Do that when you're there. This is the first vehicle you're probably going to build. Highly recommended. It allows you to access so much more of the planet's resources. And this you'll be able to build later on. This is more of a fun vehicle. Think Rocket League and things like that when you make the recreational sphere and play soccer with your car. And of course what's left of our large rover, but that is going to be covered very heavily by me when we talk about completing the game's storyline or lowering quotations. And of course the rail system, I'll link to a video to give you a better idea of how that functions. Anyway, thanks for showing up, everyone. I'll see you again later.